Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk, and what have we here, folks? The Italian Stallion. Look at this bad boy. The Bisonte C45. I think they called it the C45 Mod 71 beforehand, but they've thrown Bisonte on there. I don't know what that means. You know, full disclosure, when I first got it and played my first few games, I thought it meant garbage can. I thought it meant garbage can because, man, it seemed like a garbage can. But like most things, I relaxed a little bit, did a little research, talked to a couple of the other CCs, changed my loadout to more of a try-hard loadout. We'll talk about the pros and cons of that kind of thing with a premium tank a little while later, and I got some better results. So I think if I'd have made this video yesterday, I'd have told you to not waste your time. And since I did not make this video yesterday and wisely waited and let it marinate a little bit in the back of the skull, pan there, I have a much better opinion of it. What would be my general opinion of it? Pretty good with some caveats. So let's get into it. We'll do the standard act, a little bit shorter or truncated. Oh my gosh, I got all kinds of notes coming in here from my usual stuff, but an overview, tech tree considerations. We'll go over the 3D model really quickly. Look at a comparison very quickly. My stats, my setup, and then a couple of games. I'm only going to show you 2 on this one. I've got 10 battles in it right now. On the C45 Bisonte Mod 71 Italian Stallion, it is the new Italian heavy premium tier 8 tank. Now, we don't have the tech tree tanks out yet, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. How will you get it? I don't know. I don't know, because they gave us the tank, gave us a couple days for making content. Actually, they give us as much time as we want to make content, but when you see this, whatever that day that happens to be, it will have been the release of the NDA, and we can start talking about it. Will you have information on that day on how you can get it? I hope so. But they haven't given me any of that stuff. They just have given me the tank and told me when I can release the content, release the hounds, and that is what we're going to do. So I am very sorry. My assumption, my speculation, my guesstimate is it's somehow involved in the Christmas boxes. There you go. I would be betting you a considerable amount of money that it is one of the tanks that is going to be one of the new tanks that's going to be the big hook for the Christmas boxes. That's my assumption. But you know what happens when you make assumptions. That is correct. Exactly right. All right, let's get moving on with this thing and look at a quick overview. This is another and a long list, and really this is where we are in this game because they've kind of created most of the real tanks. Not all, but most from the period that they cover are in the game in some form or fashion. So we're really on the paper napkin tanks, the fantasy tanks, the tanks that were sometimes had a mock-up, sometimes actually had a prototype, often were only in plans, sometimes were something that 2 guys talked about on a street corner. Okay, I think the Bisonte is one of these. Considerable discussion around the development of the ideal tank for the future. It's the tank of the future in Italy in the 50s and 60s, I would guess. During that discussion, Colonel Mario Zinni proposed a project for heavy tank with a low silhouette that was easy to maintain. Isn't that always I think every engineer goes in with that. We're going to make something that's going to be the thing of the future, easy to maintain, and this is what we came up with. All right, 4 crew members, commander, gunner, driver, loader. We'll just jump right into the tech tree stuff really quickly. What's to know there? Well, there aren't any of the heavy tanks out, so I don't know if these are the exact same. My understanding is that the tier 10, which is more or less finished balance-wise, and I got this directly from one of the devs in a little Q&A we had. The Tier 8 Premium, which you're looking at, which is going to be released, and the Tier 10 are apparently basically finished. The Tier 10 has 3 crew members. I think the other heavies are going to have 4 crew members. Some of you may be in Super Test and have already seen what that looks like. I throw this out because the rest of it isn't released. All I can tell you for certain is that you have a commander, gunner, driver, loader, and the commander is the radio operator in this tank. All right, so until we get the actual tech tree released, we won't really know exactly what's going on with that. Just real quick, I didn't cover it, but you can see that it's a relatively large tank. Pretty standard profile. Looks a lot like a Centurion or Chieftain kind of looking idea right here. Pretty large turret, lots of angles on it, on the turret itself. And then the standard V-shaped front right here, pretty large lower plate, pretty large upper plate, not really well angled, especially right on the front part, quite well up on the top part right here. Forward-ish loaded turret, so coming around corners is going to be not too bad in this thing, but side scraping is going to be a little ugly as far as how much tank is going to be poking out when you try to side scrape out with this thing. But it does have some pretty decent side armor. We'll get to that in just a minute. All right, that's the tech tree and the overview. Let's move on to the 3D model. All right, here's a 3D model in tanks.gg. A little bit wonky, actually, with all the angles. This kind of happens in tanks.gg. You've got a lot of weird angles and different things going on. The turret's about 195, I want to say, is what it's listed at, or 185. But as you move around, based on the angle, you get an effective that's thicker. You've also got this, like I said, the upper plate's pretty highly angled, so you get some auto ricochet kind of stuff going on potentially, especially if you're coming up over hills, things like that. The lower plate is quite weak right there. The mantlet is decent around the edges right there. And as I said, side scraping, you can get some pretty good angles and thicknesses on that as well. So pretty standard heavy tank profile right here. Well, all right, the comparison tool does not have it involved. Let me just put a plug out to Wargaming. When you release a tank, could you please put it in the comparison tool and in the Hall of Fame? I don't get it, man. It drives me absolutely crazy. You never know when it's going to show up. Anyway, here we go. I have 3 tanks pulled up here because I think there's some interesting comparisons. Neither one of these other two is going to be an autoloader. We'll talk about the Suma in a minute as more of a direct autoloading comparison. But the Renegade, which is probably one of the better and fairly recent heavy tanks, not an autoloader, clearly. And the brand new 274 Alpha, which I have up here, is a medium, but I just wanted to discuss some interesting stuff about the two. So here's the Bisonte and the Renegade and the Object 274 Alpha. The old power creep on the Alpha, a medium tank with 320, a couple of heavy tanks with 360 Alpha. The Bisonte is going to have 3 shells, guys, so that's math in public, over 1,000 burst potential damage. But a relatively low, decent, but relatively low average pen at 218 with standard ammunition up to, we'll look at it in a minute, I think it's 270 with heat. Whereas the Renegade is sitting at 226. And the reason I have the Object 274 Alpha here is it's also another new premium tank, and it has 227 with 289 or something like that APCR gold pin. It outpins the heavy tank both in standard and gold rounds. All right, so we'll just I just wanted to say that I had to throw that out. It's also got a 220 millimeter turret. Whereas the Bisonte, a heavy tank, has a 185. You get the picture. Anyway, let's get rid of that. I just wanted to throw that out there. Something to think about if you're trying to decide where you're going to spend your money. Of course, neither one of those two has an autoloader. Armor-wise, the 250 on the Renegade stands up much better than the 185 on the Bisonte. Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's take a quick look at the Suma, which I think is close-ish to the Bisonte in gameplay, except that the difference obviously is the auto loading or the auto reloader mechanic. Okay, the Italian or the French tanks, you can shoot all of your shells and you have to reload everything. Or if you hit C, however many you shoot, you hit C, you reload everything, and you're in for the long wait of 35 seconds. At least the way I've got mine set up. Whereas the Italian auto reloader is like the Progetto and the other 3. Whatever they are called, can't remember at this point, but the other 3 Italian mediums, in that you can wait to reload everything, and that'll take you 38 seconds, but you've also got the opportunity to shoot and then auto reload a shell after that. You're never really out of the fight. However, it's a longer reload for the first shell. So if you shoot 2 shells and you leave one, then it's not a very long reload to get 1 shell back in there. If you shoot all 3, it's a pretty long reload to get the 1 shell up and going. The weird little twist that they did, and we just talked, some of us got to talk to one of the devs who brought this up. They wanted to change it around a little bit, and he said make it better. I have mixed emotions about why the auto reloading capability of the Progetto had to be better, but they figured with the heavy tank, it would be kind of punishing if you had to go through the really long reload all the time. So what that means is if you get close to the end of the reload and you do shoot before the reload's done, then the reload of that shell, what they've been calling the next shell, is shorter, up to 50% shorter. That's the general gist. Meaning that if you're forced to shoot a shot, almost reloaded but not quite, you'll get that shell back faster. That's my understanding of how it works. What the actual application of that is to the game is hard to tell. It would be very difficult to time shots like that constantly in the way the game is played. There's probably a perfect reloading case. Somebody will have to do the math and take a look at that, where you would wait till X seconds before shoot and you could maximize, potentially, I guess, your DPM. Again, DPM, and it was interesting, the dev we talked to did discuss, and I happen to agree with him, that DPM isn't everything in this game. It's a interesting stat. It's not very useful for auto loaders or auto reloaders or whatever you want to call it. It's not even really that useful for single shot guns, but as a general rule, you want more DPM. That's just more possibilities of getting shots out faster. And of course, the auto loader and the auto reloader changes that around. However, that all being said, it is a pretty similar DPM to the Suma, which the Suma has a pretty decent one for a auto loader, and that's right around 2,000. So that's what you're seeing right there. The other kind of comparison is that the Suma has some pretty good hull armor, but not great turret armor, although it's got some wonky angles on the turret armor. So 140 on the hull, whereas the Bisonte has 135. And let's go ahead and bring the Bisonte back up here. So we're checking this bad boy out, and it happens to be Italian, not Rushkin. Not Rushkin, there it is. All right. And so you can tell with the turret on this thing, it's quite large, unlike the Suma, but it does have some angles. So hold down, pretty decent. Hold down back slope, even better, because it does have a -10 gun depression, and that's very useful, just like the Suma. So that's a good thing. A decently strong turret, not amazing, but add angles because you're using the -10 degrees of gun depression on, say, back slopes, coming over hills, poking, things like that. You have a reasonable expectation of bouncing same tier, lower tier stuff pretty easily, and maybe even into the tier 9 kind of stuff. The same thing can be said about the hull armor, which 135 is pretty thick, and then you start talking about angles, and you can really get a high effective armor in those cases right there. It is okay fast, and we're going to take a look at all of that. I might as well do it right now. It is okay fast. I can get up to like 62 going down a hill, but you're only going to touch, I never really saw 50 on the flat. I saw 48, 47, something like that. 15 backwards is okay, not amazing. Most things have 20. Really, 20 is kind of the gold standard or more. 15 is a little slow, but it's not bad. It does struggle going up hills. Its specific power is very low at 12.31, so hills are going to absolutely cut off kilometers per hour very quickly. So just realize that climbing things is going to be a bit of a struggle. Almost zero concealment. And in my current setup, only 445 on the view range, which is not great. Just really quickly on that, I did build a pretty good crew. We're going to go through that, I think, next, actually. Well, we'll go to stats, to my stats and then my setup. But for that particular number, I did build a fairly decent crew with all of the view range skills and perks that you can have, and we're running a pretty big try-hard setup, so that is relatively low, really, so it does not have great view range. All right, that's pretty much it for the comparison amongst other tanks. It really is a kind of a hard one to compare because there's just not an analog to it other than maybe the Lorraine, and I just threw out another good premium heavy tank just for a slight comparison on pen and things like that, and then just a small discussion about a medium tank for some reason that has all kinds of more pen than, and almost as much alpha and quite a bit more DPM than this heavy tank. But there you have it. Make your own judgments on the timing of those things in that release. All right, let's move on. Well, how did I do? Okay, I mean, I'm at 60%, but this is 10 battles. So whatever, you know, a couple bad battles, I could be 40%, looking terrible. 79% on the hit rate. Pretty happy with that because what I did I played probably 2 or 3, 4 battles without the try-hard mode, so I didn't have food. I was running a fire extinguisher. I don't think I was running a directive, and it was a bit of a struggle bus with the gun. Although, based on a 79% hit rate, I must have been doing okay. I guess I just felt like it was not working out. Damage ratio, destruction ratio are okay at 1.32 and 143. I will tell you the last 5 battles after I put the try-hard mode on there was much, much more comfortable in the tank, and I think once I show you my setup, you're probably going to want something like that. My armor use efficiency is 0.33. I talked to 13 Disciple. His is at like 0.9, so I'm clearly doing something wrong. I think hold down in the proper angling, which is more than likely what he's doing, better than me. He plays better than me anyway, but there you have it. So my point of that discussion is that the armor can be usable, but it does require a little care in using. Does that make sense? It's not just going to be 252U kind of armor where it just works out almost no matter what you do. So this will require a little bit of skill, and I would expect this to be more like a 0.5 for everybody. It really should be out there. 1,763 average damage is a little bit low for my heavies, but like I said, the first 4 or 5 battles I had a really tough time. The last ones were nice. In fact, I think on battle 8 or so I aced it, so things were starting to get a little more comfortable. I was learning more what the tank needs as far as how to fight it, and we'll talk about that when we get into the replays right there. So that is how I did with it. Now let's take a quick look at my setup, which I've referenced several times. What it is right now is vents in the bonus slot, vert stab, and I'm running a improved rotation mechanism. Some of the other guys are running optics instead of the vents. I'll take the vents, I think, for the overall bonus. However, realize the view range is low. So when you're talking the super purples, they're going to prioritize some things that maybe the rest of us more common players aren't going to prioritize, and one of those is view range. But I just thought, if you look over here, when I did not have this set up, I was sitting at 0.38 dispersion, and that was just too painful. It just was something that was not usable in a lot of cases. Mid to long range shots were miserable. When you miss a shot, that's not good because you're sort of relying on this burst damage kind of idea, at least maybe 2 shots, to give you that upper hand in this tank so that you can overcome some of its other deficiencies. And when 1 or 2 of those just plain old missed, never mind didn't pen, that was painful. It is a heat round. That is another special struggle. Things like shooting into the side of tanks where tracks are, or getting really weird angles. Heat does not like the weird angles. So heat is a trickier gold round. As a general rule, it's got a lot more pen. This one doesn't really. It's not bad. It's 270, and it is more than a lot of tier 8 heavy tanks, especially APCR slingers, but it is a little bit lower, and it's not a heat round that you go, ooh, that's a really nice heat round. Also realize the heat round has a shell velocity of 800. Although I've seen 750 on other things, so I'm going to go with the 800 right here. But there you have it. So it's a relatively slow. The problem with that is lead fire on medium to long range shots is harder because you're going to need more lead out there, and those laser guns are just nicer on moving targets, so you hit what you're aiming at. Even close range, when things are moving around, a faster shell gets there faster and has less chance of not hitting where you were aiming based on the range and relative line of sight from right to left or left to right. Just something to think about. So that's what I'm using equipment-wise. I do have a try-hard mode of a lot of ammunition. Like I said, it's going to be 3 shells at a time for the shots out there. I'm running large kits. I did put food on, and I have the vent directive, and that brought it down to a 0.36. So you can see that even with all of that help, plus the help on the crew skills, and I've got a pretty good crew. They've got 3 skills. They've got Brothers in Arms that's working, and they're working on their 4th skill. I built them up. I've got Queen Maeve in there, and then some other. I think I just took stock guys that came with the tank and built them up with books. But even doing all of that, I'm still at 0.36 and a 2.34 aiming time, which is quite long. All right, so this thing is, some of the guys are taking in and doing some good brawling with it. I think I would recommend stay away from too much close brawling unless it's a case of you're coming out to assassinate something that's around 800 hit points and you can take them out quickly. Be careful with this thing. Otherwise, no kidding, face-to-face brawling with heavily armored tanks, especially ones that have good pen, because it's going to lose a little bit in that case. But then you've got the X factor of the auto reloader thing going on, and how you can properly apply the burst damage in this while minimizing the exposure to your hit points getting back safe and then redoing that same thing. And that's why this tank probably has a very high skill ceiling, even for a heavy tank, as opposed to some of the other tanks out there, other premiums with just a single shot. There is some flexibility built in there, but my point is that it has to be carefully executed and used, or you're going to find yourself getting disintegrated pretty quickly, and that was my problem, especially early in the first 4 or 5 battles right there. All right, so that is my setup. Let's take a look at some examples of gameplay for the C45 Bisonte mod 71. All right, here's my first battle in it, and I just looked it up, folks. It is Bisonte means bison. I think probably most people knew that or could kind of put 2 and 2 together. So here comes the bison. It doesn't mean piece of garbage. Nice long reload. You can see that going on right there. Shell goes nowhere near where I want it to. You can see I hadn't already reloaded, and it's going to take a while to put that shell back in. We'll go ahead and run over here to the 1-2 line. Again, this was my very first battle, so rather than get up and start face punching, I wanted to sit back for a second because my initial thought was, all right, maybe this is a kind of support, slightly second line. We'll get up here with our heavy tank, but we'll try to leverage that auto reloader and just start pumping shells downrange. Make a bit of a mistake right here, though, because I'm really droning in where I can pretty easily be seen by guys sitting up in these bushes. I liked that the FL10 was dead, so I was assuming, because I saw the even 90 here, that maybe I would be able to get a little bit forward here, but all of a sudden a 50-100 is just out in the open, and that is not great. I get spotted. Shells are coming in right and left, and I feel like, well, we're just going to have to be a heavy tank for a second. Maybe we can get some bounces and try to make this guy go away, and we are just absolutely getting wrecked. This is kind of my point here with this thing's armor. I get sort of a beat upon right here. I'm trying to get out of the line of fire, hopefully go dark, and people aren't able to keep just shooting down on the azimuth that I was, and I somehow survived that. I bounced 2150. That's quite a bit, actually, not bad. Really very lucky that one of those shells didn't pin, because I only have 219 hit points and I'd have been gone. So that was kind of something I wanted to show you guys. Yes, it's a heavy and it's got some armor. No, it's not going to stand up to that kind of hail of fire. So be careful about being seen. And I think that goes without saying for just about any tank. But now we're just going to go ahead and work it, and I've clipped over to the heat, and unfortunately I also have a broken gun now, so you can see the giant dispersion with the broken gun. I'm going to shoot all 3, just hoping to get one of those to hit, and we actually get a pin. We'll pull back into these bushes here and see what we can do. The 6x6 is doing his work, and I'm going to try to get some reloads going on. Now this is where you've got to make decisions about, all right, am I going to wait till I'm completely reloaded, or am I going to take a chance with a shot? I take that, and now I've got that 10-second reload. We're backing out, and I think I had a little bonus on the reload there. I'm going to keep backing because I don't want to get lit. I'm just one shot away from being gone from this game. Because I wanted him to go away, I try to take that shot, but boom, I'm in that 12-second reload. Doesn't work, but somebody else gets him. I'll just back out. There goes the 6x6. He's going to move forward, give me a little bit more breathing room, prove that there's nobody right behind the guy that was pushing in, and now I can follow up with him because he's moving along pretty good, and we'll get a little closer. And I'm waiting for that repair, which just clicked. Hopefully I see that soon. I should have seen it sooner. I can fix my gun now, and there we go. Now that dispersion isn't going to be quite as painful. Somebody hits the charioteer, so clearly there's a lot of stuff. He was on the left side of the bushes, and he gets mowed down. Interesting that the Lynx did not see any of those guys, but the charioteer got seen. That was a bit strange, but there you have it. TS5 is nice and far forward, and now we're starting to get these guys. So I'm going to aim right down on that guy's lower plate and see if we can't get a sneaky shot into it, and it works out. That one misses completely. And another shot that actually went in. And that's that 270 pin. Kind of surprised on the front of a TS5. I must have got two. The one I actually aimed at the lower plate. The other one either probably went into the hatch or went into that lower plate. Luckily, we ended up getting that guy dead. And I'm up to 1,627 from a pretty rough start. And this was a bit of a theme for me with this. I'd get a little bit far forward, a little bit overexposed, thinking that, hey, I'm the big bad heavy. I'm going to drop some paint on somebody and then I'll just grab some cover. But what it turned into, too far forward, slammed really hard, and now I have to play Mr. Careful Boy, sitting back in the back, relying on everybody else to kind of do the pushing. And that's what we got going on here. The 6x6 is pretty far forward. I should have been moving. Right here, I'm kind of just waiting for all the reloads to happen. Notice the little, well, let me see if I can see it. I don't think it actually does it, or maybe it does in the third one. We'll stop it right when it gets there. It does tell you with the little mechanic right here, right there we go. You get the little parentheses around there, and that means that now you've got a bonus to a reload. If you happen to shoot this round, then the reload, the re-reload of the second round essentially, will happen faster. Do I do this here? No. Alright, so we're just into all three are loaded up. So we got a Scorpion getting thumped. Just wait. Nice long reload. Actually ends up hitting. That works out. Scorpion G is making a runner. Now I've got the Udes back here. So long. I'm just going to keep saying it. Just a nice long reload right there. Or not reload, sorry. Aim in. Kind of painful. That works out. A bit of a snapshot as well. And I'm just really spamming the gold at this point. I don't think... Obviously, if I had this to do again, I would not be using gold on all these shots, especially not right now. It is unrequired. I'm going to try to get down a little bit low. Taking a bit of a chance getting seen by the 34. He definitely saw me, or somebody did. I'm lit. Probably should have stayed in the bushes and then came across here, but now I've got a nice hold down position. And we'll start working with the old hold down shots on the T-34. Just shot into him. ELC even 90's making a runner, and we're down to the last tanks, and I don't know if I get a shot. Let's see here. Don't remember. I don't think so. Now they're going to track down the AC-48. There we go. No, there we go. Now he's dead. All right, so 3,026. We've got 3 kills. Early mistake, losing a lot of hit points. Be careful. It can heavy tank, but it's not great at it. Again, very lucky. 2,150 bounced, and I was 1 away for the rest of the game. Basically, just about everything had enough minus, well, even the ELC even 90 did. I guess the EBRs didn't have enough to one-shot me, but he could have two-shot me in there. So I put myself on my back foot pretty early. Be careful about that with this tank, trying to rush forward, thinking you're gonna stomp all over people with that auto loader, and then think that, you know, hey, it's an auto reloader, means I'm going to be back in the fight real quick. You just have to be careful with how you employ that capability. All right, let's move on to the second example. Second example is going to end up being an ace tanker. I'm here on Corellia. I decide not to go to the heavy brawling area because I want to use a little bit of its mobility. It is decently mobile for heavy tank. You can see it's cruising along. The problem is this is slightly uphill, and that low power to weight thing going on, specific power, really crushes its climb capability. So I shaved off a lot of speed. Now I felt like I'm just in molasses right here. And I'm trying to make it over into this area. I don't have a whole lot of help, but I'm getting some. So I thought, hey, let's take this auto loader that's decently fast with okay armor and auto reloader and go help the medium and see what kind of bully stuff we can do with a heavy auto reloader over here. I do have a couple artillery to deal with, and I was also not too interested in the derpiness of the gun, shooting down this long alleyway at guys that are trying to be hold down and trying to pixel snipe turrets. That was unappealing with the way that the gun is handling wise. You will notice also that this is a game where I have changed over to spaghetti with meat sauce, and you know what the problem with that is? I don't have a fire extinguisher. And you know what the problem with that is? I am like a fire magnet when I don't carry my fire extinguishers. You can see now that I've shaved off all that speed. I'm crawling along at 20, 24, 25 kilometers an hour. This T-34-2 with the big 122 millimeter gun whacks me, lights me on fire. My crew does not have firefighting, and this is an absolute disaster of a start. I just have to wait till somehow that fire goes out. I hope I don't die. Then I can go ahead and hit 4 to fix everything, and holy crap, I've lost 2/3 of my hit points before the game has even started, and I am once again forced into very careful gameplay. Well, it's a good thing, because I ended up with a ace tanker out of this, and we'll kind of see how this goes about. I want to make sure I don't get swarmed at 500 and whatever hit points. I could actually get jumped on and probably get killed before I can even get my second auto reloader shot off. And that's something you want to watch out for with tanks like this. When they get low hit points, people will be interested in getting rid of you. And if a couple guys find me right now together, they're probably going to come in and finish me off. Even if I get a couple shots off, they're not going to care. They're going to call that a win overall. I'm going to try to sneak a shot there, and just plain old misses. just, you can see how big the dispersion is. Bit of a derpy gun. The Patton comes around the side. That means that I feel like I can move up a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of work in together. He puts a thump onto the Super. And I want to go around here and see if I can't maybe take a peek and see if I can find that T-34-2. Would really like to find him. It's a good thing I didn't find 2 or 3 tanks kind of in behind those rocks right there, because I could have easily got thumped. The Progetto moves up, and now I feel like we got to get a bit of a good thing going on right here. So if you are going to run the food and not have a fire extinguisher, my recommendation is to have your crew trained. That's probably a good idea. I trained this crew before I was really thinking about that stuff. Try to get a little sneaky shot there. It works out. I trained this crew before I was thinking about that stuff, and here I sit with a crew with no firefighting. Now I'm a little bit concerned about the Super, and I think he's maybe intending to get rid of me. He's like, oh, this guy's a 2-shot to me. If I could just get in here and sneak a couple shots. But the good news is, for me, the Patton and the 34T, that's going to let me get a shot in there. I'm really hoping to track him. Surprised that I didn't. I get one more in there, that works out, and he's trying to run away. But all of a sudden, now I'm down to a 1-shot to most everything on the game in the game once again. Not really a great place to be, and I want to back out of here. I am very lucky the RD did not pay attention. They probably could have easily splashed me to death. And the Super did not want to trust his armor with only a couple hit points. So he takes a shot there, and I'm thinking, is he really going to do this? Yes, he is. And we'll get rid of him. So that works for me. And I don't know why I stopped moving right here. I guess I thought I was safe. I think if I had this to do again, I would have moved further back. Right there. Oh, you know what? I think I actually had to get up in the middle of this game and go do something. That's right. I think the doorbell rang now that I think about it. So we're just going to hang out here and hope that a tank doesn't come around the corner and take me out. Oh, man, let's go ahead and speed this up. There we go. Now I'm back in action. All right. So back in action, little pause. I don't know. Maybe that kept me alive. Maybe my natural over-aggression would have got me in there pushing a little too hard and I'd have died off. So who knows? Patton's looking kind of behind us. There's an ELC even 90 running around the middle. That's a problem. The Progetto moves down looking like he's going to try to find him. The Patton's trying to do his thing with him as well. Looks like they're starting to track him down. And we get him dead. That's a great kill on this map. Getting rid of scouts like that on this map is fantastic. So I don't want to poke anymore at C1, especially if there's somebody with vision down there and 2 arty. I can pretty easily go away, get shredded. I want to come around here and see what I can find, if anything. Where is that Emil 2? And where is that 34-2? Quick peek, nothing happens. Pull back, what's the Patton do? He's hanging out there. 34-2 moves in. Oh, he's got the Emil lit up. Emil's kind of out in the middle. Maybe I have a shot. Let's find out. I think a bit of a mistake here. I hit him. I hit him. And then I back out, worried that someone's going to see me and kill me, and I could have got that kill, I think, if I'd have kept in there. He did not spot me. But that's okay. You know what? Maybe he clears the bush and does spot me and someone kills me. So I'll take the 2 shots, start into my reload, and we'll figure out where to go from here. Get a little bit of teamwork going here, which was pretty cool. The Patton starts moving. People start talking about where the tanks are. We know the JT's up there. I'm actually covering for the Patton. I'm curious if he's going to spot something crossing. Really, that 34-2 is the one I'm curious about. Where the heck is he? Sort of surprised he didn't move out into that bush. Where I think he is, or where he was before, and now he's spotted, is right there. And I'm very, very interested that he hasn't been poking out on this bush looking for something, because I think I would have been seen. He may have even got a shot on me right there. So when I see that, I'm like, okay, I see what's going on there. Let's back out of that. Maybe he'll move. As long as he's spotted and I know he's going to come out, then that's good. Once he goes dark, now I start to get worried, because that bush may cover his move out from behind the rock, and then he may see me. So I'm going to hang out here for a bit. This was actually probably pretty foolish. Patton's moving around. 34-2's moving around. We've got a decent advantage at 6-4. Our positioning's pretty good. 34-2 takes some shots, and I think, okay, well, this is not really going to get me anything here. I'm looking at the T-32. He's back at the cap. The JT, they knocked down our T-34-2 with their T-34-2. And now the Patton. Again, I don't know what I'm doing here, to be quite honest. Daydreaming or something. Maybe I had to get up again. I don't know. This is a very strange game, actually, to be quite honest. I have no idea why I'm just sitting here. I must have had to go do something. That's very odd. All right. Patton's moving around. He's taking shots at the guys up on the hill. Most of this very careful gameplay is born from the fact that I lost so many hit points early on. Just not really great. Not a really great effort on my part. Again, I'm curious why the T-34-2 is not poking out right there. So let's just go ahead and we'll start thinking about it. Are we going to go down to C1? And I think it's about time to maybe start working that way. The JT's got up and over. He's back over onto the southeast side of the hill right there. Some of our guys are yelling for help because they're facing a JT and AE Phase 1 and an E75 TS, all pretty good tanks. The Su-130 PM gets caught out in the open a bit, and a little bit of crossfire between the Patton. And then the Patton lights up the T-34-2. This is going to give me an opportunity. I can tell that he's moved up to the bush, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a shot on him when I come around this corner. My only concern really is whether or not we're going to see anybody sitting right here or up here with enough view range. And the good news is that they do not. I can get to this cover, come around here, and then we're going to use that auto reload and dump him. Fairly quick reload in between. It's about 3 seconds. He's trying to get a bead on me. I pull out just in time, decently angled. I get a bounce, so fantastic. And then I get another bounce, but not the kind I want. I'm sort of just really praying that Artie doesn't pay attention to me, but I have a pretty good idea that Artie's looking at the Patton or looking at these guys over here, just based on how many guys are lit and where the fight's going on. He may notice that I'm over here now on low hit points, but I would be very doubtful that he was zoomed in right here, ready to hit me. Either one of them. But now they probably are. Now they know I've moved in here. I'm at 2,488. I've got 600 bounced. Here's the discussion about, hey, where's the turtle? Somebody said something about E75 and turtle. Then they're going to go ahead and click right there, which is fantastic. That's kind of what I suspected, but it's good to get confirmation that it's the turtle that's sitting right in front of me. They don't have fantastic view range, but the T-32 is not too bad. It's no slouch, depending on the crew. And you can see that my two circles are right where he is. So I'd love to move to that next rock. I'm just concerned that one of them is close enough that I'm not going to be able to make it. But I'm also seeing that the guys are shooting the heck out of the AE Phase 1 over there. So I'm starting to think, I bet the T-32 and the turtle are really busy right now shooting at the guys that are lit at the base of the hill. And I think I waited too long right here. If I had this to do again, I'd have started moving much earlier, because it took me a while to sort of realize that was going to go on. I take a quick peek out here, just being real tentative. And this is a result of having few votes left with only 270 hit points. If I'd have kept more votes, not taken so much damage early on, then the dash down to that next rock would have been much more comfortable. They kill the AX, we kill the Phase 1, that breaks free the three guys on the hill, and I take my chance to cross over here, although we do lose some significant tanks doing so. I'm curious if I got spotted, but I don't think I did. Oh, I did, and he's not really paying attention to get a bounce. He's not looking, he's trying to get away. And I see his turret. Finally, he starts to move his gun like he's going to pay attention to who's hitting him, so I get out of the way. Get a little extra assist damage. Guys, it's just thumping on in there. That's fantastic. And then he, I think, burns. Or maybe the second shot went in. I'm not really sure. And we've got the Artie, so that's good. We'll use the bush. Fairly confident no one can see me through it. Slide around. I considered pushing the T-34-2 as armor, but it took a little extra time to do that, so we'll just take a quick shot at him. Patton's moving in. There's only 3 left. The E75, the Artie, and the turtle. See him up there. See the Artie moving around. Zoom, 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 zoom. Blap. Overkill. Get a nice ammo rack on that guy. We're up to 3,200 with 2 kills. I know the turtle's sitting around right there somewhere. There he goes. So that gives me an opportunity to move in. Now I see him backing up, and I'm thinking, all right, is he going to back up to that rock and then spin to face me? Or is he really busy with those guys? I may have to dodge down into this little pit right here, depending on how he comes around this corner. I think he's backing, based on what I see, and it looks like he is. So we'll just stop. Zoom in. Get a shot on him. Put another one into him. waiting. I was waiting to try to get the second shot so I could go boom, boom. The arty went in, so I just took it because I figured somebody else was going to hit him and finish him off before I'd get a reload. So I just accepted that. 3,924 damage, 983 assist. Move a little closer for an easier shot. Really long reload right there. So I probably should have timed that reload a little bit better and maybe got 2 shots in there. But as it was, not a bad game for an ace tanker right there. So 2 examples, guys. I wanted to show that you can be overconfident and overextend with this and get beat up. But if you play it carefully, not necessarily because you get beat up and lose hit points, but if you just do that from the beginning, you can see that with the auto reloader, it can really move through things. And the armor will work for you on occasion. You just can't really rely on it out there. So let's take a look at one more third example. We're just going to watch part of this battle. This is the 10th battle that I had. Again, top tier. The last one, there were tier 9s on the other ones. I didn't see any tier 10s yet, so I don't have any gameplay of that. You're sort of protected in some of the earlier battles. So it really takes, you got to play 20 battles in these things if you want to see any real bottom tier kind of stuff. But I can tell that there's not much up here. And what I want to use is the bully capability of the 1,000 damage. So I want to come around here and see. Try to get a shot on him, but I can't. Then I see I've got a train, so I'm thinking, all right, we'll just come around here. Got a Progetto and a Prototype and a Lance and C, so let me just auto-aim this guy and we'll go thump. Got a bounce. I get hit. We thump him. I'm going to get hit hard twice here. Artie comes at me, and I don't quite get the kill, and that's a bummer. We have 11 hit points left, and I'm really hoping one of these two finishes off the Progetto, and they're looking at him, but unfortunately they don't do it before I take a bunch of big hits. So wham, wham, thank you, ma'am, and now I am down. Once again, Guido's rolling around a one-shot to everything, to include there's artillery back there. But I'm able to push in with this thing and cause that chaos with that auto-reloader, right? Those 3 shots would have been really nice if I'd have been able to kill him, because I could have come off him very much quicker and covered up against these. While that was not a perfectly, even really greatly executed push, that's the idea of this tank. You'd like to do it and not eat as many shots as I did, but you can come in here and wreck things like this kind of tank, holding guys back and then break open the rest of your guys. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to turtle up against this wall and hope the arty doesn't somehow find an angle on me right there. I think he's busy worrying about the Su-101, so that was a very good thing for me that he wasn't able to shoot me again. And now these guys, now minus 10 is pretty good, so you're going to actually see me be able to get a shot here. I've got to wait until they're not both looking around the corner. Look, you can tell the Prototype's sort of looking at the hill, I think hoping for me to come around, but he starts getting thumped by everybody. Then I'm going to wait for him to fire. Or not pay attention. There we go. 270 heat round is enough to go through the flat plate of the turret of the T-28. That gives me up to 1575, and then we'll just start pushing down here. And as with all auto loaders or auto reloaders, when you have all the shells in your clip, you're extremely dangerous if you have the ability to take on something that isn't paying attention or can't return fire. So only 60 hit points, but still very dangerous tank. So I'll use this guy's vision to see what's going on. Somebody shoots him, so I'll just come around here. I do need to cover up against the IS-22, but boom, boom, I get 2 nice shots. 279, Alpha doesn't quite finish him. I've got my next shot. We'll see if we can go ahead and get rid of him. We miss, that's a bummer. He goes down pretty quickly. And unfortunately, I've got to wait for them to push in on the IS-22 and make him fire. I want to cross, but he's definitely looking. He's got a lot of hit points. So it's giving me an opportunity to reload a bit. And I think he's trying to figure out if he can get a shot on me. And I think he actually, yeah, he gets a little spot on me. That was a mistake. I shouldn't have let him know that I was that close. IS-6 goes in. He decides, I can see his turret turning, it's kind of hard to see, but he decides he needs to fight those guys. But he turtles up into the little nook there, and I don't have any shots, so I'll just ignore him. Those guys will be able to kill him, and we'll move on. I end up with 1 more shot, so we're about 2,600 or so by the time we're done with this. I get killed by the Pershing shooting HE. No card on this one because I didn't take those screenshots, but let's go ahead and sum up the old Bisonte. Alright guys, that is my review of the Bisonte C45 Mod 71 ABC 123 Tier 8 Italian Heavy Auto Reloading Tank. My initial impression of this was it was a garbage can. That's what I thought Bisonte means. But it means bison. And in fact, it is actually a pretty decent tank. I would call it pretty well balanced, actually, to be quite honest. It's very powerful in game if you can maintain some of your votes and you've got the auto reloader going on. I think it's an interesting change to have a heavy tank with the auto reloader thing. You know, everyone knows the Progetto is a beast in game when you've got some hit points left and you've got the auto reloader. You can really do some cleanup. But now think about that capability in some of the heavy brawling areas. I mean, yes, a Progetto can move around. It's got a lot more mobility. That will limit this thing because while it's got decent mobility for heavy, it's not Progetto mobility. So you're not going to fly around the map necessarily, but in the heavy brawling areas, when everybody starts to get down to low hit points and you've maintained some of your votes with your hit points and okay-ish armor, you've done some good side scraping, some good hold down stuff, and now you've got that 360 alpha and 3 of those bad boys to jump out and start taking guys down. That's where this thing is going to start to shine. So you've got to get to that mid to late game with some hit points, with some votes left. And I think also what you're going to want to do is to work on its biggest vice, in my opinion, which is its terrible gun handling. So set it up so that you can minimize that 0.38 to 0.4 kind of dispersion, which is atrocious, which is 252 defender level, right? Bring it down to about 0.36 where I've got it. And while I wouldn't call it a sniper, it's at least comfortable when you're working in that mid to close range area right there. So I think this has a high skill ceiling for a heavy. I think that you need to use it with care, but I think that you will also enjoy the tank if you end up getting it, as long as you're running it right, being careful with how you run it. Okay, cautious aggression, I think, is the order of the day with the Bisonte. I think you'll be pleased with it and have a lot of fun because the flexibility and options of an auto reloader chucked onto a heavy tank is very interesting, and I think that's a little bit of something that's different in the game that we haven't seen quite yet. So where that shakes out as far as the meta, is it going to end up being, you know, the new flavor of the week and a heavy? I don't think so, and that's a good thing. It will be flavor of the week because people are going to want to get a new tank, but I think that's a good thing. As long as the rest of the line comes out balanced, it will just add another wrinkle into the game as opposed to throw out the old OP thing. So I like that it maybe isn't the flavor of the week and it isn't OP and it has possibilities for good gameplay, but also it's not going to destroy the game. It's just kind of been the order of the day, or at least the claim by a lot of people, especially for the Christmas tanks that have come out in the recent past, i.e. the last 2 or 3 years. So nice job, Wargaming. I think it'll be all right. I think it'll be worth your time to get it, or effort, or whatever it is. You know, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to get it. I'm still a little miffed, Wargaming, at that. Why I can't right now tell the people how they're going to get it. I think the timing is such that when this video hits, they will also know that, but I'm sitting here in the dark, right? The mushroom. Sitting in the dark, getting fed stuff. Anyway, wah for me. You guys have a good one. Christmas is coming up. I think this is going to be a good Christmas season. I'm already liking what I'm seeing from Wargaming for the Christmas event. They got Chuck Norris involved. There's all, from what I can see in the first thing that came out, the first video, there's going to be a lot of goodies. So I'm really looking forward to this. And hopefully this tank is part of it. I think it will be. You'll be able to get a hold of this fairly soon and enjoy yourself with the Bisonte C45 Mod 71 Italian heavy auto reloading premium tank. That's all I've got. See ya.